In lesson 3, we're going to look at Grossman healthcare demand. The Grossman model of healthcare demand suggests that individuals view health both as a consumption good, meaning it provides them with utility, and as an investment. It enhances their future productivity. So you can invest in real estate, you can invest in the stock market, you can invest in health. So that's the innovation that the Grossman model does. Now, one effective government policy could be simply educating individuals on the benefits of health savings accounts, HSAs, and how they can be used to lower future health care demand. If successful, this demand reduction could lead to lower health care prices, assuming a constant supply of healthcare services. HSAs, which are paired with high deductible health insurance plans, allow contributions to grow tax-free when used for qualified medical expenses. Unlike flexible spending accounts, HSA contributions roll over from year to year, enabling individuals to accumulate balances over time. For those who adopt healthier lifestyle choices, these balances can grow, reducing the need for future withdrawals for healthcare expenses and increasing the amount available for retirement purposes, such as housing, travel, or long-term care. HSAs create a financial incentive for individuals to improve their health through proactive behaviors like exercise and eating healthy foods. In line with the Grossman model, these investments in healthcare can reduce future demand for healthcare services. Individuals who benefit from this can leave their HSA balances untouched, allowing the funds to compound over time. Ultimately, the savings can be used in retirement for healthcare related expenses, which are tax-free at any age, or for non-health related expenses, which are penalty-free only after the age of retirement, 65, which improves overall financial well-being. So not only are you healthier financially, you're going to be healthier in a physical sense. That's the whole idea of it, right? For this problem, assume the demand for knee surgeries 20 years from now is given by this long equation. Annual HSA contribution S is capped at 4,000. Annual HSA withdrawals for medical expenses are 2,000 a year. The annual rate of return, R, on rolled over HSA funds is 5% for all 20 years. And the average income, I, of low income, medium income, and high income earners are $30,000, $60,000, and $120,000 respectively. So what you need to do is you need to click on Desmos. And what I've done is I've typed this equation out in Desmos. And I've typed it into 3 different Desmos sheets. I got the S, the savings amount, the amount that is deposited each year tax-free into a savings account, $4,000. I have what we expect to spend on medical expenses every year, $2,000. Now, this could be $4,000 if you want, but I'm just assuming some numbers, right? What the numbers are isn't really the important thing in theory. It's how they change. That's the important thing. Is do they go up or do they go down in terms of understanding the economics of the model? So these numbers are just placeholders. The annual rate of return, R, now little r in Desmos is reserved for a thing called radius. So we're going to use big R. And we're assuming it's 5%. And then income initially, or income, this is my low income demand curve model. And I have income set at $30,000. Now I have the same exact thing set up here, except I have income set at $60,000. So this is my middle income. The middle Desmos is the middle income demand for knee surgeries in 20 years. And the one on the right is my high income, 120,000. Okay. Now I got to make sure the numbers all look good in the equation. So minus 20Q, minus 0.01I, minus 0.01I, minus 1000R, minus 1000R, plus 2C, minus 2S, and then I got to change this to 22,000. Okay. And I got to do that for all of these equations, right? So ceteris paribus means we're holding everything constant but one thing. In this case, we're changing income from high income to middle income to low income. All I have to do is change this value here. So everything looks good. Everything looks good here too. And then everything looks good here, right? So that's all set up. Now we need the intercept of this equation for low income earners. This thing right here, right? Everything between this blue line here to this blue box here, all of this stuff is the intercept. It's this box right here. This is the slope. And this negative sign means it's downward sloping. It has a negative relationship. Price and quantity have a negative relationship, right? Demand curves have that property. When price is high, quantity demand is low. When quantity demand is high, price is low. So that's the law of demand, right? So we have to calculate this value here. Now, you could plug it into a calculator, or you can just remember that when Q is zero, 0 times 20 is 0, and 0 subtracted from anything is that anything, right? So if this box were 1,000 and Q were 0, 20 times 0, 0, 0 subtracted from 1,000 is 1,000, right? So this is the intercept, the y-intercept. In this model, it's really the p-intercept, right? This is a math program over here. This is a math platform. So we call it the y-intercept. Now, the y-intercept is the value where x is 0. So when x is 0, the value of y is 11,800. Now, this is for the high income earners, right? So when income is 120,000 and quantity demanded, x in this case is 0, that person be willing to pay $11,800 for a knee surgery in 20 years. So again, that's for high income earners. So I'm going to come down here and type 11,800, right? That's what it was over here. 11,800. I'm going to press enter and I'm going to get a demand curve here. So I get the initial demand curve for high income earners, right? Now we'll do middle income. So we'll come here. Everything's the same except income is 60,000. So what's going on here is we're taking the 22,000, we're subtracting off 2 times that. We're adding 2 times C, which is 2,000. Then we're subtracting off 1,000 times 5, which is 5,000. And then we're subtracting off 0.1 times your I. So 0.01 times I is 600. So this part here is 600. This part here is 5,000. This part here is 4,000. And this part here is 8,000. So we're just doing the arithmetic, right? We're calculating that value. And Desmos automatically plugs these in and then graphs it right here. And we can find out what the intercept is by just clicking on that dot right there. So when Q is 0, for middle income consumers, when Q is 0, the price that people are willing to pay is 12,400. And that'll draw a demand curve for middle income people. And it's further out, right? It's further out than this demand curve. We'll talk about that in a second. Now for low income people, we're going to click on this very first Desmos model. and I got the income set at $30,000. And again, we're plugging that into here. We're plugging the 5 into here. We're plugging the C into here, the S in here, and then we're doing the addition and the subtraction, right? And we can do that, or we can just click on this dot right here. So in Q is 0, the maximum willing to pay is 12,700. And again, it draws the demand curve. The demand curve that's furthest from the origin is low-income earner demand for knee surgeries 20 years from now. This is in between that demand curve and the one for high-income earners, right? And we can kind of see it here. If we click this, then that we can see that income is shifting demand in. Now, why would income be shifting the demand for knee surgeries inward like this? Typically, in economics, as income goes up, demand goes up. We call those normal goods or luxury goods. So as income goes up, we would think demand might go up, but it's going in. And the reason why that is because today, the wealthiest people, they can afford the most healthiest diets, and they probably can afford leisure and maybe personal trainers, right? So if you think about those things as investments in your person, in your physical person, in 20 years, maybe you're not carrying as much weight, maybe you're carrying more muscle, and then you have the proper nutrients. Maybe you're not smoking, you're not engaging in addictive behaviors, you're really health conscious, you're walking, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you're making these investments in your health. So that would explain why as income goes up today, demand for future knee surgeries decreases. So if we start with people who have low income and look at people that have median income, we look at people that have a high income, the demand for those services 20 years from now are going to be a lot lower for the high income people, right? All right. Now let's look at the marginal consumers, right? Not all consumers aren't alike. We're all unique and different, right? Every person on the planet is unique. Now, just so happens that demand curves sort people within groups from the highest willingness to pay to the lowest willingness to pay. Willingness to pay can depend on a couple of things. It can depend on your income relative to others in your income bracket. It can also reflect your attitudes. Are you more frugal than other people in your income bracket? So frugal people are going to tend to have very low willingness to pay. Also, generally speaking, if we hold willingness to pay, if we hold frugality constant, typically the more income you have, the more able, maybe the more willing you are to pay for a surgery, right? So willingness to pay depends on several things. We're going to assume it's income related. So if there are 378,000 low income earners, the marginal low income earner is willing to pay at most what? So I have to go to my low income model in Desmos, which is the one on the left, low income on the left, middle income in the middle, and then high income on the right. So let's go to the left model where the income is $30,000, right? I'm going to type Q equal to 378. I have 378,000 low income earners, right? And we want to know what the marginal low income earner is willing to pay at most. And the marginal low income earners, the very last one, right? And that very last one is willing to pay $5,140. So this very last person, right? We're going from the person with the lowest willingness to pay up the demand curve to the person with the highest willingness to pay, right? So this very last person is willing to pay $5,140. Now, if I change this to X equal 378, and I slide this back, I can see right here that this vertical line is at 378. I can change the color to, I don't know, black. I made the line dashed, and then I can make the line thinner. Done. So this represents that very last low-income earner, right? And they're willing to pay $5,140, right? Which is this height here. Now for the middle income earner, suppose there's 201,000 medium income earners. Now, because this right here is a word, what that means in my models is that quantity is in thousands, right? So this right here is actually 150,000. This is actually 300,000. This is actually 450,000, right? So, but we only plug in 201 because it's already in thousands. So down here, I can type Q equal 201 means 201,000. Desmos is plugging all these values in, doing the arithmetic, and it's getting 8,380. Press enter. So here we have fewer people, right? We have fewer middle income people than we have low income people. And this person has a willingness to pay of 8,380. So this height is between 7,500 and 10,000, right? Another way to do this is I can do X equal, instead of Q equal 201. I'll change the color here to black. I'll change it to dash, and I'll change the width to 1. And I'll click done. And I'll close that back up. So at the intersection of these two, this is the last of the middle income earners. And that last middle income earner is willing to pay $8,380, right? This height. Okay, now let's go to the high income earners, right? The high income earners with $120,000. I'm going to type Q equal 53. And what Desmos is doing, it's plugging in the value of S, C, R, I, and Q, and it comes up with 10,740. Now I can also make this X, and then I can change the color of it to black again, change the thickness to 1, and change it to a dash. And then click done. And then I can click on this dot here, and I can see that the last of the 53,000 high income earners, the very last one, is willing to pay 10,740 for this knee surgery 20 years from now, right? And then that will cause this graph to have a dash line at 53,000. Again, it's in a word. So this here is in thousands. So that is 53,000. And when we go up to the demand curve, we get to 10,740. Suppose exercising and eating whole foods regularly reduces annual health savings account withdrawals for medical expenses to 1,000. So instead of having to spend $2,000 a year on your medical services, you're only spending 1,000 because you're eating right and you got proper nutrition, you're eating right, and you're getting really good exercise. But only middle income and high income earners can afford the whole foods and have the extra time to exercise properly and regularly, right? So we're going to rederive the demand curve for knee surgeries 20 years from now for low income, medium income, and high income earners. So we're going to see what the effect of healthy eating and exercise does to your demand curve. So for the low income earner, this does not change because they can't afford whole foods and they can't afford to exercise. Maybe they're working a couple jobs and they just don't have time to exercise. So nothing happens to them, right? So the intercept of their model stays at 12,700. So this blue curve is the before, and then the after will be a different color. What I see is the new demand curve is identical to this demand curve because the low income earner can't afford the Whole Foods and the exercise. So nothing's going to happen here. You'll see that the intercept will remain right there, right above 12,500. So let me go ahead and enter that. So again, nothing happened, right? It stayed in the same spot. Nothing changed for low income earners. What about the medium income earner? Let's go to the middle Desmos model. The median income earner, because they can afford Whole Foods and they can afford to, and they have the time to maybe exercise properly and regularly, appropriately. The cost of their medical care goes down by 1,000 each year. Their demand curve shifted in, right? And their new intercept is 10,400. So we're going to type 10,400. And you're going to see an effect here. So we went from the blue demand curve to the red demand curve. And the red demand curve represents lower demand for knee surgeries 20 years from now, if or when middle income earners decide that they want to eat healthy Whole Foods and get regular exercise. That will save them money in the future, right? Their demand for these knee surgeries will be a lot lower because maybe they go under their, maybe in 20 years from now, they've been investing in their health. They aren't putting as much pressure on their knees. They're exercising, so their bones are nice and strong. Their muscles are nice and strong. So they're gonna have fewer negative health outcomes. So their demand is gonna be lower in the future for knee surgeries. What about high income earners? High income earners, again, they're the ones making $120,000 a year. They can afford the Whole Foods and they can afford to exercise regularly. So their demand curve shifts in as well, right? And their intercept, right? When Q is 0, they're willing to pay at most 9,800, right? So this is 9,800. Their demand curve shifted in too, right? Again, they're able to make those investments in their health. So they're going to go into retirement with maybe the proper weight. They're not going to be putting lots of pressure on their knees. They're not going to be stressing their back. They're going to be generally healthier. And so their demand for knee surgery is going to be a lot lower in the future. Now, let's go back and look at what the marginal earner, the marginal consumer in each income bracket is willing to pay now for a knee surgery in 20 years. Okay, so let's go back. Let's do the low income earner first. So we'll go to the left model. So this person, you know, their demand for future healthcare did not decrease. They can't afford the health foods. They can't afford the Whole Foods. They can't afford the time they need to exercise properly. So they're still willing, this marginal low-income earner is still willing to pay $5,140 for knee surgery 20 years from now. So no change here, right? No change. This is the same as it was before. Okay. Now, what about the middle income earner? Let's go to the middle model. Now, this last of the 201,000 middle income earners is willing to pay at most $6,380. Why? Because they're healthier 20 years from now, right? They're not going to, the likelihood of them needing that knee surgery is going to be a lot lower. They might not need it altogether. So this last of the 201,000 middle income earners is now willing to only pay $6,380 for knee surgery in 20 years. Now, what about the high income earner? There are 53,000 high income earners, the last of which is willing to pay $8,740 for that knee surgery. So this person is willing to pay at most, again, $8,740 for that knee surgery. The demand for knee surgeries in this age group has declined dramatically from blue to red. Okay, so now let's look at the situation where in 20 years, suppose everyone expects the price of knee surgery to be $10,740. It's going to be the same for everybody. I mean, that's kind of what you expect. A rich person and a poor person and middle income person, when they go into McDonald's, they all expect the Big Mac to be around $5, right? So in 20 years, suppose everyone in all three income brackets expects the price of a knee surgery to be $10,740. If no one from now until then understands how an HSA can be used in retirement, maybe they don't invest in their health. Maybe they don't invest in eating whole foods for 20 years. Maybe they don't invest in proper exercise, regular proper exercise for those 20 years, right? So at a price of $10,740, what I'm going to do is instead of using X equal 53, I'm going to change this to Y. And then Y equal 10,740. Reset the cost to 2, right? Because nobody's making the investment, because nobody is familiar with health savings account and how they can impact your retirement, right? So I'm going to copy this to all three models. And then I'm going to reset the cost equation. So the cost is already set to 2,000. I'm going to change this to the 10,740. Okay. So in 20 years, suppose everyone expects the price of knee surgery to be the amount that I put in the model. If no one from now until then understands how the HSA can be used in retirement, what's going to happen? Well, at this price, 98,000 low income earners are going to demand knee surgeries. We're in the middle model with income at 60,000. At this price of $10,740, 83 middle income people are going to demand knee surgeries. 83,000. And then how many high income earners are going to demand knee surgeries in 20 years? Okay, so this is high income. At this price for a knee surgery in 20 years, 53,000 are going to need knee surgeries in 20 years, are going to demand them, right? Okay, so these heights now, this value is 98,000 for low income earners. At this height, we have 83,000 middle income earners. At this height or price for knee surgery in 20 years, we have 53,000. Now, the government launched a large-scale campaign to educate the public on how health savings accounts work and how they can enhance retirement savings. Individuals would gain significant financial incentives to invest in their health over these 20 years. And that would improve their health through regular exercise and eating whole foods. Now, by assumption, only high income and median income earners have the means to do this. The health of these individuals would improve, resulting in how many knee surgeries 20 years from now? So for the medium income, they can make the investments, right? So their healthcare costs come down. That means they're rolling over more and more of their income every year in their health savings account. They're not using as much of it. So their financial health is much better. Same thing with the high income earners. They're spending less each month and each year because they're eating healthy and they're getting regular exercise. They're having fewer chronic diseases. And so their demand is much lower for healthcare in the future, right? Same with middle income, right? The low income people, they don't have the money to invest in healthier diets in their health via healthier diets and regular exercise. So that stays at 2,000 and their demand does not shift, right? So for low income people, there's still 98,000 low income earners needing those knee surgeries, right? They still need those knee surgeries. They weren't able to invest in their health because they don't have the money to afford whole foods and regular exercise. Now, if you look at middle income earners, their demand curve intersects this price at a negative number. Well, you can't have negative knee surgeries, right? So this just means that zero middle income people are going to need surgeries 20 years from now. And then we go to high income earners, it's even more pronounced, right? We can't have negative quantity demanded for knee surgeries 20 years from now. So that would be zero as well. At $10,740 per knee surgery 20 years from now, being fully informed of the retirement benefits of HSAs caused some to improve their diets and exercise more, resulting in total quantity of knee surgeries performed declining by how many? Well, I'm going to go to Desmos. Initial knee surgeries were what? Before this public service announcement started, we needed how many knee surgeries in 20 years? We needed 234, right? But now we need what? 98,000 plus zero, right? So that's a reduction of how many? So we're going to subtract 234 and 98, and we get 136,000. 136,000 pure knee surgeries are done because we ran this campaign to educate people about the tax benefits. And those tax benefits are so incredible. Retirement benefits of not using your funds in your HSA, rolling them, earning a rate of return on them. That financial incentive is so great that you don't want to use healthcare services from year to year. So what do? Instead of using your health savings account, not changing your behavior, what you want to do is you want to save for the future. And you do that by investing in your health, by eating healthy and getting regular exercise. And that results in a massive savings in the future of 136,000 knee surgeries that would have been performed otherwise.